Hello everyone, and welcome to Hopeful Moments 1. Today, we will hear a story about family betrayal related to finances, specifically, how parents mismanaged and lost their child's inheritance. This story will take you through an unexpected and emotional journey. The narrator's resentment remains strong even after many years, proving that financial betrayal can have long-lasting and profound effects on family relationships. If you find this story insightful and meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more valuable lessons. My grandparents passed away when I was very young, too young to fully grasp the meaning of loss or to deeply feel the love they had for me. I don't have many memories of them, but through the stories my family has told, I know that they were thoughtful and always cared for their children and grandchildren. They left behind not just love but also a precious legacy, an inheritance carefully set aside for me, with the hope that it would help secure a stable and promising future. This money was not just an asset, it was a symbol of care, responsibility, and foresight. My grandparents understood that life is full of challenges and that a strong financial foundation could make all the difference. That's why the inheritance they left wasn't just enough to cover my college tuition but also to give me a solid start in adulthood, money that could help me buy a home, invest in my career, or simply avoid the burden of debt that so many others face. They carefully planned for my future, placing the money in a safe account so that when I came of age, I could use it in the most beneficial way. They did everything they could to ensure I had the best opportunities ahead of me. But unfortunately, things did not go as they had intended. This inheritance was more than just a number in a bank account, it carried my grandparents' love, care, and vision for the next generation. It was their way of protecting me, even after they were gone. They knew that in this world, financial stability could be a game changer, it could save me from crippling debt, from struggling with student loans, and from the constant stress of financial insecurity. It could have given me the freedom to pursue my dreams, to choose a career I truly wanted rather than settling for any job just to make ends meet. Had the money remained intact, it could have completely transformed my life. I could have received a better education without worrying about tuition fees. I could have owned my own home instead of constantly struggling with rent. I could have built a career without the weight of debt holding me back. It could have given me the peace of mind and stability to focus on what truly matters in life, rather than constantly fighting to recover from someone else's mistakes. It wasn't just money, it was a future, an opportunity, and a path that should have been mine. But sadly, all of that was taken away, not due to some unavoidable tragedy, but simply because of my father's overconfidence and personal ambitions. But in the end, I never had the chance to benefit from my grandparents' careful planning, because the money was gone when I truly needed it. It was supposed to be a shield protecting me from financial hardship, a foundation that would allow me to step into adulthood with confidence. Instead, it was taken away, not for an emergency, not for a justified reason, but because of my father's poor decisions and misplaced ambitions. Had my parents not interfered with my inheritance, I am certain my life would be completely different today. I could have graduated from college without the crushing burden of student debt, without exhausting myself with part-time jobs just to make ends meet. I could have had a strong financial start, allowing me to be independent without struggling every single day. I could have used that money to make a down payment on a home, just like my cousins and my sister, who were lucky enough to receive their full inheritance without interference. No one took away their chance to own a home, no one forced them to start from scratch. Today, they all have stable lives, free from debt, and most importantly, the financial freedom that I should have had too. Watching them live the kind of life I could have had, a life that was supposed to be within my reach, fills me with a deep sense of injustice and anger. I don't envy them, I resent the fact that my future was stolen from me by the very people who were supposed to protect me. But what hurts the most is that my father truly believed he could do better than my grandfather. My grandfather had carefully set up a safe and secure account to protect my future, ensuring that the money would grow steadily without major risks. But my father refused to accept that. In his eyes, letting the money sit in a low-interest account was a waste. He believed he could do better, that he could invest it more wisely, multiply it, and create an even greater fortune for me. Maybe, in his mind, he truly thought he was doing what was best, ensuring that when I came of age, I wouldn't just have a decent inheritance, but a massive financial windfall. But reality proved otherwise. Instead of securing my financial future, he turned my dreams into a nightmare. Instead of growing the money, he practically made it disappear. Every careful plan my grandparents had put in place for me was destroyed because of his pride, his belief that he could outsmart the previous generation. And in the end, what was left? When the time finally came for me to receive my inheritance, I was left with only a small fraction, an amount that could never compare to what I should have had. I don't need him to invest for me. I don't need a gamble on my future. I just needed my parents to follow what my grandparents had set aside for me, and yet, they couldn't even do that. Instead of giving me a smooth start, my father's decision took that opportunity away. When the time came for me to receive my inheritance, I should have had a financial foundation secure enough to support my future, a sum that my grandparents had spent their lives accumulating, carefully planning, and safeguarding so that I could use it when I needed it most. But what was the reality? What remained was only a tiny fraction of what I should have rightfully received. While my cousins and my sister entered adulthood with strong financial backing, free from tuition worries, unburdened by debt, and even able to buy homes early, I was left struggling with difficulties I should never have had to face. I had to figure out how to pay for my education, support myself, and navigate life without any assistance from the inheritance that was meant for me. I had to watch others enjoy the privileges I was also meant to have, all because my father believed he was smarter than the person who had carefully planned my future. He was confident that he could do better, but what was the outcome? Not only did he nearly wipe out the inheritance, but he also made my life significantly harder. His recklessness didn't just cost me money, it stole priceless opportunities that I can never get back. When I became eligible to receive my inheritance, I had expected a sum that would help me build a solid future, just as my grandparents had intended. That money wasn't just a financial figure, it was a chance to enter adulthood without the crushing weight of financial burdens. I had imagined using it to pay for my education, buy a small home, or at least have a financial cushion to launch my career. But reality was nowhere close to what I had envisioned. Instead of receiving the inheritance that rightfully belonged to me, I was given only $27,000, a number that might not seem insignificant at first glance, but when compared to what my cousins and sister received, I realized I had been given only about 10% of their share. While they could comfortably enjoy the financial security my grandparents had ensured for them, I was left with mere scraps, an amount far from making up for what I had lost. This means that I should have received at least $250,000. A sum that could have covered my entire college tuition without the need for loans. A sum that could have helped me put a down payment on a home instead of struggling with rent and scraping by every month. A sum that could have been the foundation for my future, a chance to start life without the weight of financial stress dragging me down. But I never got that chance. All because of one reckless decision made by my father. This harsh reality wasn't due to an unavoidable circumstance, it was entirely caused by my parents' poor choices, especially my father's. He refused to let the inheritance remain untouched in the secure account my grandparents had arranged. He was convinced that he could invest more wisely, grow the money into an even greater fortune, and not only give me a good start but make me far wealthier than my grandparents had envisioned. Maybe, in his mind, it was a bold move, a decision that would benefit me greatly. But what was the actual result? Instead of making me wealthier, he nearly erased my inheritance. The money that was supposed to secure my future disappeared, leaving me with only a fraction of what I was meant to have. And the tragedy didn't end with my inheritance, even the money my grandparents left for my mother suffered the same fate. My parents lost a significant amount of money, possibly due to poor investments, bad financial decisions, or simply unnecessary risks. The most heartbreaking part is that they didn't lose this money due to some unforeseen crisis or unavoidable misfortune, it was lost solely because my father wanted to prove that he was smarter and more capable than my grandparents. But he failed. And the price paid wasn't just in money, it was my future. I didn't just lose the opportunity for a strong financial start, I had to face the painful truth that the very people who were supposed to protect me, love me, and set me up for success were the ones who stole that opportunity from me. They didn't just lose money, they lost my trust and respect. How can I still see them as parents who put their children's best interests first when they prioritized their own egos and poor decisions over my future? How can I forgive when what I lost wasn't just a bank balance, but years of struggle that I never should have had to endure, years that could have been easier, less stressful, and far less bitter? Cutting ties with my parents wasn't a rash decision or a moment of anger. It was the result of years of built-up hurt, disappointment, and broken trust. As time passed, I realized that the distance between us wasn't just about money, it was about responsibility, about family values, and about respect. This isn't just about reducing contact or taking a break to cool off, it's a complete severance, a clear boundary that I no longer want them to cross. I chose to protect myself, to protect my own future family, and most importantly, to hold on to whatever dignity and fairness I still have left. Not inviting them to my wedding is not just a personal decision, it is a powerful statement of this severance. A wedding is one of the most significant events in a person's life, a day when families typically come together, share in the joy, and witness their child stepping into a new chapter. It is a time for blessings, for loved ones to stand by my side on this important day. But for me, their presence is no longer something I desire. They did not just lose the inheritance that should have been mine, they lost their place in my life. Their betrayal was not just about financial loss, it was about their disregard for my future, their lack of responsibility toward their own child. How can I still consider them family when they made the conscious choice to destroy what my grandparents had painstakingly built for me? On this momentous day, I do not want the presence of those who, deep down, I feel have betrayed me. I cannot stand at the altar, vowing my future to my partner, while those who caused me so much loss stand behind me with forced smiles. I do not want fake congratulations, insincere hugs, or empty handshakes. There is no forgiveness. No reconciliation. Only the distance I have chosen to protect myself from further harm. I have chosen a life without them, a future where I no longer have to hope for people who never truly put me first. But this rejection does not stop at the wedding, it extends to the next generation, my children. Keeping them away from my children is not an act of revenge. It is an act of protection. I do not want my children growing up around people who once prioritized their own self-interest over their child's future. I cannot allow my kids to interact with those who betrayed trust out of greed and arrogance, only to pretend it never happened. How could I let them appear in my children's lives, playing the role of loving grandparents, when I know they once disregarded their own parental responsibilities? A child does not just need love, they need to be surrounded by role models worthy of emulation. I cannot let my children look at them and believe that family is something that can destroy trust without consequence, that kinship is something to be taken lightly when convenient, that no mistake is too big to be overlooked without accountability. I lost my chance to have a strong financial foundation in life, but I will not let my children grow up around people who might inflict the same kind of harm again. My parents may have lost a significant amount of money due to their poor decisions, but what they lost is far greater. They did not just lose money, they lost me. They lost the right to be a part of my life, the chance to see their grandchildren grow up, to witness their first moments, their first steps, their first achievements. They may think financial mistakes are just setbacks, that time will heal everything, that I will eventually forgive and forget as if nothing ever happened. But to me, this was never just about money. This was betrayal. And betrayal comes at a cost. The cost of irresponsibility, greed, and arrogance is exclusion from my life. The price of mistakes that cannot be undone is losing the privilege of being called grandparents in my family. And the consequence of their choice, the choice to prioritize their ego over my future, is the choice I must now make to protect myself and my family. Once trust is broken, it cannot easily be restored. And once family ceases to be a place of security, distance becomes inevitable. My sister does not have children, which means I am the only one who could have given my parents the joy of being grandparents. I know that for them, having grandchildren is not just a joy but an important milestone, a chance to continue the family legacy, to see the next generation grow, to cherish the moments many parents long for in their later years. But for me, it is not that simple. Being a grandparent is not an automatic right. It is not something anyone is entitled to just because they once had a child. It must be built on a foundation of love, responsibility, and trust. They cannot expect to enjoy the privileges of being grandparents when they failed in the responsibilities of being parents. Being a parent is not just about raising a child until they reach adulthood, it is about ensuring their future is protected, about making decisions that always put their best interests first. But my parents did not do that. They placed their greed, arrogance, and pride above my future. And now, when they want a place in my children's lives, I cannot simply forget what they did in the past. Because being a grandparent is not just a title, it is a privilege. And it is a privilege they forfeited with their own actions. Now, my parents want to be part of my children's lives, to hold them, love them, and watch them grow. But I cannot easily forget what they did. When I needed a solid financial foundation to build my future, they took it away from me. When I needed support to have a fair start like my cousins, they replaced it with poor decisions, leaving me with a mere fraction of what I was supposed to receive. So I made it clear to them, if they truly want to be grandparents to my children, they must make amends for their mistakes. They must return the money I was rightfully entitled to, not just the original amount, but with interest, because over the years, I lost more than just money, I lost the opportunities that money could have provided. I am not making this demand out of greed or to punish them, I am doing it because I believe forgiveness cannot exist without accountability. They cannot just expect me to move on as if nothing happened while I have had to bear the consequences of their reckless decisions. If they are truly remorseful, if they genuinely want to make things right, this is the only way to do it. But instead of trying to make amends, they reacted by calling me unreasonable and harsh, saying that the amount I was asking for would affect their retirement fund. That made me wonder, did they ever think about my future when they decided to take my money? Without that money, I had to fend for myself, struggle to build my own life. So why should I now be expected to sympathize with their financial struggles? The truth is, I did not create this situation, they did, years ago. And now, they are simply facing the consequences of their own choices. My parents immediately dismissed my demand, saying I was ridiculous for expecting repayment, especially with added interest. They acted as if my request was unreasonable, as if returning that money would put them in financial hardship. They spoke as if I was the one being selfish and unfair in this situation. But I refuse to accept that mindset. They want me to feel guilty for asking for what is rightfully mine, but I know the truth, I am not taking anything from them, I am simply reclaiming what was mine to begin with. They have no right to complain about losing money when they had no hesitation in taking away my financial future to fuel my father's investment ambitions. So, I asked them a simple but weighty question. If Dad hadn't been foolish enough to think he was smarter than Grandpa, how much money would you have now? That question was not just about my money, it was about the entire truth they had been avoiding. If my father had not meddled with my inheritance, had not been greedy enough to think he could outsmart my grandfather, then not only would I have had financial security, but so would they. They did not lose money due to some unforeseen disaster or an unavoidable misfortune, they lost it because of my father's arrogance, his recklessness, and their lack of foresight. And now, they expect me to take responsibility for the consequences of their actions? I looked at them, waiting for an answer, but perhaps even they did not want to face that truth. My sister claimed I was being unreasonable, that I should let go of the past and allow our parents the chance to be grandparents. She spoke as if money was not a big deal, as if I was just being stubborn and selfish. But if she truly believed that money was not important, then I had a simple proposal for her. If you really think it's not a big deal, why don't you give me the money you received? My suggestion made her freeze. Suddenly, the money she had dismissed as insignificant became important when it was her turn to give it up. She was unwilling to part with what she had received, so why was I expected to accept the loss of what was rightfully mine? I was not asking for anything more than fairness, I just wanted back what had been taken from me. But the conversation did not end there. She continued to insist that our parents desperately wanted grandchildren, that they longed to be part of the next generation's lives. I did not deny that, but I also saw no reason why I should be the only one responsible for fulfilling that desire. So, I told her plainly. If you really think they need grandchildren that badly, then you can have a child yourself. That statement hit her like a cold splash of water. Once again, she refused. That was not an option for her. But that only made the situation clearer. She had a choice in this matter, while I did not. She could choose to keep her money. She could choose not to have children. But I was expected to simply forget the past, to allow our parents into my children's lives without any effort on their part to make amends. Why did they all get to have choices, while I was the only one expected to sacrifice? I didn't make those proposals to be confrontational, but to show her the truth. If she doesn't want to give up what she has, then there's no reason to expect me to do so. If she's not willing to change her life for our parents, then why should I be forced to? Years have passed, but my anger has never subsided. It's not just about financial loss, it's about the betrayal by the very people who were supposed to protect me. That inheritance wasn't just a number in a bank account, it was the foundation for my future, carefully planned by my grandparents. If my parents hadn't touched that money, I would have had a strong start, just like my cousins, no debts, no struggles to build a life from scratch. But all of that was taken away, not for a valid reason, but because of my father's ego. He couldn't accept that my grandfather had meticulously planned my future. He couldn't stand the thought of my money sitting safely in an account instead of being used in a way he believed was better. He wanted to prove that he was smarter, that he could make more profit than my grandfather, that he understood investments better than the previous generation. But reality was harsh. He was wrong. Not only did he fail to increase that money, but he also lost almost all of it. I didn't just lose money, I lost the chance to study without financial stress, I lost the stability I should have had, I lost the years of my youth that could have been free from financial worries. What I lost wasn't just a number in an account, it was a future I could never get back. And the worst part? My parents never truly took responsibility for what they did. Instead of admitting their mistake and trying to make amends, they want me to forget everything, to let them be a part of my child's life as if nothing ever happened. But how can I forgive when they don't even show remorse? How can I move on when I'm the one who had to pay the price for their arrogance? This anger isn't a momentary outburst. It's the result of years of witnessing myself being deprived, of seeing others have the stability I should have had, of hearing my parents' empty justifications without a single act of correction. And until they truly take responsibility, I know this anger will never go away. Life isn't just shaped by what we receive, but also by the choices of those around us. I didn't just lose an inheritance, I lost my trust in the very people who were supposed to protect me. The betrayal isn't just about the money they lost, it's about how they dismissed their responsibility. They believed they knew better, that they had the right to decide for me, but in the end, they are the ones who paid the highest price, by losing their relationship with their child and grandchild. What's the lesson from this story? Trust is precious but fragile. Once lost, it's incredibly hard to regain. Family isn't just bonded by blood but by responsibility and mutual respect. One person's decision can shape another's future. Parents aren't just responsible for raising their children, they must ensure that their choices don't harm them in the long run. No one is entitled to a place in someone's life. The title of parent or grandparent isn't a free pass to be present in a child's life, it must be earned through love, trust, and real responsibility. Learn to set boundaries and protect yourself. Sometimes, for a better future, we must walk away from those who have hurt us, no matter who they are. Family isn't always a safe space, and not everyone who gave birth to us deserves to remain in our lives forever. My parents made their choice in the past. And now, I have the right to make my own. Family should be a place of love and protection, but that's not always the case. A strong relationship isn't just built on blood ties, it must be built on respect, responsibility, and trust. If you're a parent, remember that children don't just need love, they need real protection. The decisions you make today can shape their entire future. Be mindful when managing assets, making big decisions, and above all, don't let your ego overshadow your responsibilities. Don't turn love into control, and never gamble with your child's future just to prove you're right. If you're a child, remember that you have the right to set boundaries. Family isn't always a safe space, and sometimes, protecting yourself and the next generation is more important than maintaining a relationship out of obligation. Learning to forgive is good, but forgiveness doesn't mean allowing those who hurt you back into your life. Most importantly, cherish and protect the true values of family. Love must go hand in hand with responsibility, and once trust is lost, it's incredibly difficult to restore. Don't let greed or mistakes destroy what should have been preserved.